Welcome to this session on skeptical doubt, stream entry. The purpose of this session is to discuss what do we mean by skeptical doubt, and also to discuss briefly how one could abandon skeptical doubt to become a stream enterer. The teachings of Buddha leads to generate happiness. Therefore, the message is precious. In specific, this may be of interest to practitioners who are seeking for it. We live in a context where many people are experiencing depression, anxiety, worry, suicidal thought, and similar symptoms. Often those individuals who have experienced tremendous life difficulties are left with very few treatment options or help. In terms of psychological treatment, the options are limited as well. Moreover, it may well be that those individuals who are experiencing various life difficulties are unable to pay for healthcare or pay for mental health care practitioners to find help. It may well be that they find themselves in a situation that they find uncomfortable to approach a practitioner to speak about their problems. And for those individuals who are interested in hearing Buddha's teachings, if that can be offered, that could be of benefit. Buddha's teachings are labeled as religion. It may well be labeled as traditions or divisions or different schools. Yet the key message of Buddha's teachings is such that for those individuals who practice Dhamma in the right way should be able to gain happiness and to abandon all kinds of mental sufferings. Sotapanna, or a person who gains realization at the first stage of enlightenment, abandon 3 fetters. They are identity view, doubt about the teaching, and attachment to rites and rituals. Identity view is explained across various suttas, but in summary, that just means understanding that there is no permanent self. Clinging to rites and rituals is a fetter. Skeptical doubt is a fetter. A stream enterer would abandon these 3 fetters at once. The purpose of this session is to explore more about skeptical doubt. That is, doubt about the Buddha, his teachings, his noble disciples, and the training. Typically, doubt about Buddha and his teachings and his noble disciples and the training is eradicated by a Sotapanna because they gain realization to understand what Buddha's teachings are, and they experience personally the true nature of reality through insight, and this insight confirms the accuracy of the Buddha's teaching. Often we hear one who has gone forth, meaning one who truly follows Dhamma and one who truly practices Dhamma. One who truly practices Dhamma should be able to gain fruition. In this sutta we see Tathagata is called one who roams about homeless. The desire, lust, delight, and craving, the engagement and clinging, the mental standpoints, adherences, and underlying tendencies regarding the feeling element, the perception element, the volitional formations element, the conscious element, these have been abandoned by the Tathagata, cut off at the root, made like a palm stump, obliterated so that they are no more subject to further rising. In Salayatana Vibhanga Sutta, we see it explains, as in this slide, 6 kinds of lay equanimity as well as 6 kinds of renunciate equanimity. When you understood the impermanence of sight, they are perishing, fading away, and cessation. Equanimity arises as you truly understand through right understanding that both formerly and now all those sights are impermanent, suffering, and perishable. Such equanimity transcends the sight. That's why it's called renunciate equanimity. When you understood the impermanence of sounds, smells, taste, touches, thoughts, they are perishing, fading away, and cessation, equanimity arises as you truly understand through right understanding that both formerly and now all those thoughts are impermanent, suffering, and perishable. Because the physical world is created in mind, not clinging mentally is what we mean by gain realization. This means that Buddha's teachings are open to people of all backgrounds and circumstances. As we see in literature, for example, in Dhammapada verse 203 and the associated story, it explains that a poor man who has lost his ox and who has had his meal, after hearing a discourse given by Buddha, attained Sotapanni fruition just at the end of the discourse. Also, some of the interesting issues we see if we were to explore what Buddha's original teachings are to abandon doubts. There are no strict rules and regulations or suggestions saying that one needs to do certain things to gain realization. Rather, it is the liberation that helps one to gain realization. For example, in this sutta we see, if for certain individual going to forest helps gain realization, then for that individual going to forest to gain realization would be helpful. On the contrary, if for a certain individual going to forest is not helpful to gain realization, mindfulness does not come to establish, in that case, not going to forest would be helpful. Also, from a different perspective, it may be that certain individuals have good intention to go and train in seclusion, but just because one goes to train in seclusion, it doesn't mean one would necessarily gain realization. Here in this sutta, as we see, the disciple of a teacher who lives in seclusion do not train in seclusion. They don't give up what the teacher tells them to give up, and so on. In this sutta, you see, Sariputta, robes are of two kinds. Alms food is of two kinds. Resting places are of two kinds. Villages, towns, cities, districts, and persons are of two kinds, to be cultivated and not to be cultivated. So in other words, that just means whatever robes, whatever alms food, whatever resting places, whatever persons who are helping an individual to gain realization or to gain wholesome qualities are to be cultivated. On the contrary, whatever robes, whatever villages, whatever cities, whatever persons are not helpful to gain wholesome qualities should be abandoned. This also means an individual can select their practice based on their personal choices and preferences. Whatever that helps one to gain realization is what is helpful for an individual. Sammasambuddha Sutta explains the difference between the Tathagata and his disciples. The Tathagata Bhikkhus, the Arhat, the perfectly enlightened one, is the originator of the path, unarisen before, the producer of the path, unproduced before, the declarer of the path, undeclared before. He is the knower of the path, the discoverer of the path, the one skilled in the path. And his disciples now dwell following that path and become possessed of it afterwards. So to become a disciple of Buddha, it helps one to understand what are Buddha's true teachings and to practice in the way in line with Buddha's original teachings. As we see in this sutta, it explains there is a path, a way to the abandoning of the 5 lower fetters. And those who have gained realization by following the practice in the right way are a stream enterer, once returner, non-returner, and an arahant. Being unable to find Buddha's original teaching can prevent nibbana. This is because it may be that one could have lots of doubts about Buddha's teaching, and these doubts are abandoned when someone gains realization, and therefore hearing the message from someone who has gained realization can be helpful for another individual to gain understanding and to abandon doubts to become a stream enterer. This is also like in any other subject. For example, if someone wants to gain an undergraduate degree at the university, the person who is teaching or explaining the method to undergraduates should have had already gained understanding by completing a degree and so on. So equally, in Buddha's path, one who has correctly gained understanding by gaining realization is able to explain Buddha's teachings to another. It may be that certain recluses maintain the view Nibbana here and now for an existent being. When someone lives here and now, that may be called as mindfulness. But in the right way, understanding Nibbana here and now, but there is no existent being who is experiencing Nibbana here and now is the right mindfulness. Those individuals who have gained realization will possess no doubts, will not cling to rites and rituals, and they will be open-minded and are able to discuss training methods leading to Nibbana. And by hearing what they're saying about training methods, if another individual can practice accordingly, if at all they can gain realization, when they gain realization, it will be reasonable for them to accept with confidence that this is Buddha's teaching leading to Nibbana. Buddha's teachings provide happiness and abandon all kind of unsatisfactory mental states. In Magga Vibhanga Sutta, the Buddha is recorded as uttering a brief formula for defining right view. Knowledge with regard to stress, knowledge with regard to the origination of stress, knowledge with regard to the stopping of stress, knowledge with regard to the way of practice. Knowledge with regard to the stress, meaning any kind of stress experienced by an individual. The origination of stress comes because an individual maintains the self-view, or in other words, all kind of stress or bad things are experienced by self. This is the kind of the view that produces stress. And if someone can stop this thinking to think that whatever the stress is happening is actually not happening to me, that is the knowledge with regard to the stopping of stress. And there is a way to practice, in other words, to train mind in a way to practice leading to stopping this stress. And that is the Noble Eightfold Path, which begins with the right view, and the right view itself is the view that there is no self, and also understand non-clinging to rites and rituals, and also abandoning skeptical doubts about Buddha, his teachings, to gain Sri-Mentri. It has been often said that following virtues are helpful to gain realization. Sila virtues are of course helpful, but essentially it is the wisdom that is and the critical thinking that helps an individual to gain realization. As we see here, the power of reflection and the power of development are beneficial to gain realization. Listening to Dhamma as well as reflecting on it, reflecting real life experience from the point of view of Dhamma is beneficial to gain right view and to train the mind in a way leading to gain right view. Various kind of training methods have been discussed across various suttas, but for example, this Emento Sutta explains how in the ways in which one could abandon taints. This could be a topic to discuss as a different session. A Sotapanna gains confirmed confidence in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Noble Sangha and the noble virtues. These are also the factors of stream entry. One easy way to gain or to develop these 3 factors, the confidence in Buddha, is to reflect on the virtues of the Buddha. Such is he, the gracious one, the worthy one, the perfect Sammasambuddha, the one endowed with understanding and good conduct, the fortunate one, the one who understands the world, the unsurpassed guide for those people who need taming, the teacher of ghosts and men, the Buddha, the gracious one. So the reflecting the qualities of Buddha can be helpful, and reflecting the qualities of the Dhamma. And reflecting the qualities of the Noble Sangha. This is the end of this presentation. Thank you very much.